Welcome to your deep dive. You know we love it when you send us thought-provoking stuff, and this time you guys sent over a French article called La théorie de l'engagement de la communication.
Ooh la la.
Right. Thankfully, we've got you here because I don't speak French.
Well, lucky for you, I do.
That's right, you're fluent. So this article is all about how we invest ourselves in conversations, why it even matters for relationships, what it means for organizations.
Yeah, the whole shebang.
So what really jumped out at you from this piece?
You know, what I found fascinating is how this article breaks engagement down into all these different dimensions.
Okay.
You know, it's emotional, cognitive, it's how we behave, and even the relationships we build.
Right.
It's not just like passively listening.
Yeah.
It's about how deeply we invest ourselves in any interaction.
I like that.
Yeah.
So let's kind of unpack that because the article starts with this idea of attention and presence being like super important.
Yes.
And that means like actually listening, responding in a way that shows you get it, not just nodding along. The article actually calls this active listening and pertinent responses.
And it also emphasizes going beyond just surface level responses
Okay.
and showing something called implicature.
Okay. Now you're just using big words.
Implicature.
Yeah. Break that down for me.
Okay.
Because I'm lost.
Think of it this way. Like when a friend says they're fine, but their tone is kind of like,
Totally off.
yeah, totally off. You're picking up on those those unspoken cues and meanings. You're reading between the lines.
Yeah.
That's implicature in action.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
So it's not just about like saying the right words, but understanding the deeper meaning, right?
Exactly.
You have to be tuned in on like multiple levels.
Multiple levels, but
isn't
isn't
that like exhausting?
Mm,
To always be on like that?
I mean, it's a good question, right? You don't want to be on all the time.
Right.
So, the article really points out that engagement is often reciprocal. So when one person shows genuine interest, the other person usually kind of mirrors that.
Sure.
It's like this positive feedback loop
Gotcha.
where everyone starts to feel more connected and more motivated to participate.
So it's not about being on all the time. It's about creating an environment where people feel safe to engage.
Right.
Which makes me wonder, if we get better at this whole engagement thing, what's the payoff? Like, what's in it for us?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
The article argues that deeper engagement isn't just about feeling good, though that is definitely a bonus.
Right.
It can actually lead to more trust and connection in our personal relationships.
Okay.
And in organizations, it can boost collaboration and even make people more productive.
Wait, so you're saying that just by changing how we talk to each other, we can actually get more done?
It might sound a little counterintuitive,
I like stuff.
but think about it. When people feel heard and understood at work, they're going to be way more invested in what they're doing. They're
Yeah.
going to feel valued, and they'll contribute more.
Wow. Okay, this is blowing my mind a little bit.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
We're going to need to dig into that a little bit more.
For sure.
But first, a quick break. Okay, so we're seeing that better communication can actually boost productivity. That's wild. But let's bring it back to those personal relationships for a second.
Okay.
You mentioned trust and connection. How does engagement actually, like, build those things?
Well, imagine you're telling your partner about a tough day.
Yeah.
And instead of them just nodding along, they really listen, they ask you questions, they even reflect back what you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd feel heard, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like they truly get you.
Yeah.
That's how engagement builds trust.
Okay.
It shows you care enough to really invest in understanding the other person.
It's like you're saying, I see you, I hear you, and what you're saying is important to me.
Exactly.
That's powerful stuff.
It is.
No wonder the article says deeper engagement leads to greater satisfaction in relationships.
Yeah.
But, relationships aren't always sunshine and roses.
Oh, for sure.
So what about when things get a little tough?
Well, that's where this idea of engagement gets even more interesting, especially when we think about conflict,
Yeah.
We all have disagreements, right? But the article suggests that couples who are really good at communication engagement are better equipped to actually handle conflict constructively.
So it's not about avoiding conflict altogether.
No, not at all.
Okay.
It's about approaching those disagreements, with a mindset of collaboration and understanding.
Okay.
Engaged couples can express their needs clearly and respectfully.
Yeah.
They can listen to each other's perspectives without getting all defensive.
Right.
And ultimately work together to find solutions that work for both of them.
So it's like they have this like secret weapon for navigating those rough patches.
Exactly.
They can weather the storm because they've built this strong foundation of communication.
And connection?
Yes. But, this got me thinking, the article is in French.
Right.
Is this like a particularly French thing?
That's a good question.
Or does this apply to other relationships too?
Well, the article actually highlights how these principles can be applied to all sorts of relationships.
Yeah.
Friendships, family dynamics, even interactions with colleagues or acquaintances.
So it's not limited to romantic relationships or a specific culture.
Nope, it's pretty universal.
It's how we engage with everyone in our lives.
Exactly.
Which, let's be honest, that's a lot of people.
It is a lot, yeah.
But, okay, if we get better at this, like, what's the potential upside?
Wow.
Could we actually build stronger connections with everyone?
Absolutely. And the best part is it doesn't require learning some crazy complex communication technique.
Right.
It's about making those conscious choices in how
Yep.
we interact.
Oh,
Simple things, being present,
yeah.
listening attentively,
Mm-hmm.
asking thoughtful questions, expressing ourselves authentically can make a huge difference.
So small changes, big impact.
Pretty much.
I like that.
Yeah,
It's almost like we're being given this roadmap to better relationships.
I like that analogy. Yeah, a roadmap.
It's about recognizing that we have the power to create more fulfilling relationships simply by being more mindful in how we communicate.
Absolutely.
But the article doesn't stop at personal relationships.
Right.
It goes on to explore how this theory plays out in organizations,
Yeah.
which is a whole other can of worms.
Oh, definitely.
So let's dive into the world of organizational communication engagement, shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay, so we're back, and you were about to say this idea of engagement in organizations gets really interesting.
It does, because the article argues that building this whole culture of engagement in a company can actually lead to, well, amazing results.
Like what?
Better teamwork, increased productivity, people just feeling good about being at work.
So you're saying that just by changing how people communicate, we can improve a company's bottom line.
Yeah, that's what the article's getting at.
I'm intrigued, but I'm also a little skeptical.
I get it.
So what's the logic there?
Well, imagine you're working somewhere and you really feel like your voice is heard, like your ideas matter.
Yeah,
You're going to be more invested in your work.
right. I mean, yeah, I guess so.
You're going to be more motivated to actually contribute, more likely to think outside the box.
Right.
And you're probably going to enjoy working with your colleagues more,
Okay, so it's not just about making employees feel all warm and fuzzy.
Yeah.
It's about creating an environment where they can actually do their best work.
Exactly.
Okay, I see the connection there.
Yeah.
But workplaces aren't always, harmonious.
Oh, no, definitely not.
What about when conflict comes up?
Right.
Does this engagement stuff help with that too?
Absolutely. That's a huge part of it.
Yep.
The article says that strong communication engagement can actually lead to much more effective conflict resolution.
Interesting.
Because conflict, it's just inevitable.
In any work.
In any workplace.
Right.
It's how you handle it that
Yeah.
makes a difference.
Okay, so it's not about avoiding conflict altogether.
No, not at all.
It's about having the tools to work through those disagreements in a healthy way.
Exactly.
Okay.
So in a culture of open communication where everyone's actively listening, people are less likely to jump into that defensive mode, right?
Yeah, it makes sense.
They're more open to understanding different perspectives, and that makes it much easier to find solutions that work for everyone.
It's like turning disagreements into opportunities for growth.
Right, exactly. Like a built-in system for that.
But this all sounds very idealistic.
Sure.
How do you actually create that kind of culture in a real workplace?
It's a good question, right?
Is it as simple as just telling people to listen more?
Oh, no, it's definitely not just about words.
Okay.
Organizations have to walk the walk, not just talk the talk,
So what does that look like?
Putting systems in place that actually promote engagement.
So things like having open door policies, encouraging feedback, making sure everyone feels comfortable sharing their ideas.
Exactly.
Okay.
And, this is a big one. Leadership really needs to model those behaviors.
Oh, interesting.
When employees see their leaders actively listening, asking questions, being transparent, it sets the tone for the whole organization.
So it's a top-down approach.
In a way, yeah.
Leaders have to really set the example if they want to see that real change.
Right. But it's also important to remember that this is an ongoing process,
Yeah.
Building that kind of culture takes time, it takes effort, and it definitely takes commitment from everyone.
This deep dive has really been eye-opening.
It's cool stuff, right?
It is.
It makes you think.
It really does.
Yeah.
It's made me realize that, communication is so much more than just exchanging information.
Right.
It's about building relationships. It's about fostering trust and creating that sense of belonging.
Whether it's personal or professional.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for everyone listening, think about your own work environment. Is there a sense of openness and transparency there? Are people encouraged to actually share their ideas and perspectives? And if not, what small steps could you take to start cultivating a more engaging style of communication?
That's a great question for listeners to think about.
Because remember, even small changes can make a huge difference.
And remember, communication is a skill, just like any other skill.
You can learn it?
You can develop it, you can refine it with practice.
Absolutely.
So keep learning, keep experimenting, keep striving to make those connections.
Well, what a fantastic way to wrap up this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thanks for joining us. And to everyone listening, keep sending us those fascinating articles because we love exploring them with you.